about it.
The paper boy pitching the headlines. Dad, after finishing his shift at the factory, coming home to the evening paper.
In Russia.
Images emblematic of a simpler time.
By means of printing.
Now, most evidence suggests that the traditional newspaper, a once cherished institution, is under siege. So what's next? To answer the question, let's take a look at a few watershed moments that got us to where we are now. In the 125 years since the Wall Street Journal first hit newsstands on July 8, 1889, the way news is produced and consumed has been constantly evolving. What was the first big breakthrough for newspapers? From the early days of the Republic, newspapers and the free press helped define American democracy. But it wasn't until the 1860s that reading them became a ritual of the masses. That's when the wider use of the rotary press, capable of cranking out tens of thousands of copies per hour, made newspapers a salable commodity on a larger scale. Most publishers used their ink, purchased by the barrel, to promote a point of view, the kind of highly politicized reporting we today call biased. When the Wall Street Journal entered the fray, it was a 4-page afternoon paper that sold for 2 cents. Its focus confined at the time to business and the latest happenings on Wall Street, staying off to the side as William Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer's New York papers went to war. Historians say the competition between them drew the country into an actual conflict, with fabricated stories that goaded public sympathy for Cuban revolutionaries leading to the Spanish-American War. How did newspapers become less partisan? With World War I, readers hungered for timely, accurate information, and the more partisan newspapers began to close, publishers realizing it made better financial sense to take the middle ground. Also around this time, a new technology dramatically helped to change journalistic standards.
Serving the world's top newspapers with lightning-fast reports geared to press deadline.
By 1914, teletype machines gave reputable news sources the near-instant ability to transmit their reports to newspapers around the country, offering a straight treatment of the news. By the 1920s, the Journal, with its reputation for independent financial reporting, sold around 50,000 papers per day. Back then, it served a far more niche audience than it does now.
Most of us read a paper every day.
By World War II, Americans' news hunger was fed by radio and the U.S.'s 380 morning newspapers and 1,500 evening papers, with a total daily circulation of over 41 million copies. That came to almost 1 copy for every 3 Americans. The post-war boom fed the news industry's vast advertising revenue.
What do you read? What do you read?
Newspapers growing ever thicker with more news, classified ads, stock listings, comics, and coupons.
And here's Father now, coming home from his daily work.
They symbolized in popular culture America's newly affluent middle-class lifestyle. What knocked newspapers off their perch?
The era of television.
Competition in the living room began heating up. TV by the 1960s was becoming the go-to source for fast-breaking news. But Americans for a while maintained their reading habits. After growing rapidly in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, newspapers held on to their circulation numbers through the 70s and early 80s, their numbers peaking in 1984 at over 63 million subscribers. But then came the 90s, and as the internet spread, newspapers slid and slid. The numbers falling by 2011 to below where they were in 1945. And that brings us back to the original question. What's next for newspapers? Many experts predict that within 1 or 2 decades, the paper part of newspapers will die. But that doesn't necessarily mean the end of the institutions themselves. Digital technology is feeding us more news in more places than ever before. Today, for example, almost half of U.S. households own a tablet, and 43% of tablet owners report they're using the device to consume more news. Publishers are looking for new ways to deliver the news, and on virtually any device, whether it's on your body, like your glasses, or your watch, or in places around the house. Refrigerators, countertops, the bathroom mirror could even become the next newsstand. And as our devices get smarter, perhaps so will we. But that part of the story is still being written.
Now for the rest of the story.
Just not on paper.
They go up along the belt to the circulation room.